Firstly, very sorry that we are a couple of minutes late for this session, but we have sorted it out and we are back on track. Again, welcome us today for this webinar. And let me introduce myself. My name is Vikas, and I'm working as one of the marketing manager at Kellton Tech. Well, in this webinar today, we are presenting API strategy with IBM API Connect, which is presented by Balajee Venna. He is one of the senior practice manager carrying 17 years of experience in solution delivery using IBM integration and connectivity, and also well versed with IBM BPM and VODM technologies. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, on the bottom right hand side on the GoToWebinar control panel, you will be seeing an a question and answer panel where you can just drop in a message to us. We will be either replying back through an email, or if we have some time at the end of the session, we'll be able to answer those right away. And also this session is being recorded, and the recording of this session will be available and we will be able to send out as an handout to all the attendees who have joined us today. So before I pass this to Balajee, let me just probably do a quick intro about who we are and what we have been doing in for last couple of years. Well, if you see, we are started in 1993, and it's been a long journey for us, 2017, and if you see today we are in a 100 million organization and wide across the globe. We have our head offices in US, we have the global delivery center in India and UK, and we have also been working with many of our clients where we have built mission critical, revenue generating, customer facing and enterprise class consumer grade applications. Okay, and we have been hired by best national and international institutes wherein the senior management is coming in from Kellton and Wharton business schools, as you know. We have close to about 1,000 plus employees across the globe, and as discussed, we have been focusing mainly on healthcare, retail, insurance, media, and software technology industries, with over 1,100 plus employees across the globe, and we have also served about close to 40 Fortune 1000 companies till date. And let me just give you a brief on we have been doing. And well, with the thought leadership and subject matter expertise in the areas of SOHA, BPM and APIs, and even hybrid cloud architecture, we have been one of the strongest IBM practices featuring middleware products in BPM, IIB, ESB, ODM and web methods as well. So with much ado, let me just push it to Balajee. Balajee, the floor is all yours. We have beautiful audience right over there. So let's get started, and we are ready to look into today's agenda.
Sure. Thank you, Vikas. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for today's webinar on API strategy with IBM API Connect. The brief agenda for today's webinar, we would be covering what are APIs, briefly what are APIs and API management concepts. Then we will dwell into API Connect features. Lastly, we will take up what is the strategy to be adopted for API management and some of the best practices we have adopted for clients. With that, let's start with what basically APIs, what are APIs, and what constitutes API management. At a very high level, a basic level, APIs is one of the ways that applications interact or communicate with each other, wherein which the API specifies the interface, that is what is being called, and the operation, how the call is being made, and what the result that will be returned. Now, the main purpose of these APIs is to allow the parties outside of your company to reach the functions of your existing application. By allowing or by extending the reach of your company, that in turn will drive more customers, and then that will bring in more business to your company. And that also would facilitate, once the company exposes the applications and assets to the outside world, the third parties can also create new novel uses of your business applications. They can create their own by using the APIs that the company provides. And this, in overall, the goal would be is to drive more business to your company. And the outside developers, they can choose different ways to integrate their applications with the providers that provide them the APIs. If the business is not having the APIs, then the developers can choose to go to your competitors. So if we look at the fast way, the business, how the business is done is how fast it is changing. Inside businesses are with business partner applications, smartphone, tablet apps, and a wide range of connected devices through APIs, right? So this makes since these are to be available all the time. These APIs are like somewhat similar to websites, in which they are available 24/7 and 365 days a year. Like how the websites are maintained by corporations, these APIs are also well designed, and they are well maintained and updated constantly, so that they talk more about the organization. If we look at how the business evolved, how the customers used to interact with the business, that has evolved, from the old days of store presence to toll-free numbers to websites. That is now all happening through the APIs, because APIs represent a path to the new business opportunities by attracting the customers and also the developers, so that they can use more products and services from the company. Typically, with a web-based portal, the company dictates the steps that the customers use to interact with the company. That is kind of a rigid way. But with an API, the client can build their own business processes that are tailored to their own needs. The better thing is, the company doesn't need to build a complex website to satisfy different customers. Rather, the third parties or the developers, they can utilize these provided APIs and build their own applications suiting their own needs, and that thereby that in turn drives more business. Finally, APIs give the flexibility to the client to mix and match functions from multiple companies. They can take services from different companies, according to their best needs, and that all will be facilitated through the APIs. If we see the history of the APIs, APIs are not new. If you look at in the industry, some of the early adopters of APIs, eBay, Expedia, Netflix, these are all the early adopters of the APIs in the industry. And if you look at how they were benefited with the APIs, you can see that 60% of the eBay revenue comes through their APIs, and 90% of the annual revenue of Expedia, that comes through their APIs. So let's talk about what's new. That is enterprise digital transformation. So with the recent accelerated adoption of cloud, mobile, social platforms, organizations are digitizing their businesses and are moving towards digital transformation. So that would enable them to gain competitive advantage in their internal and external operations, and also this facilitates integration of the information, processes, work, and people, so that the entire organization can collaborate more efficiently and more effectively. And that will definitely have a profound impact on the way the organization does the business and how the individuals in the organization work. So towards this digital transformations, what in this journey, what enterprises are looking is they're looking to unlock their huge amounts of data that is there in their backend systems, that is in their systems of record, so that that is made available or exposed to create new business opportunities on the systems of edge, on these mobile, cloud, IoT, API platforms. So this the key enabler. The key enabler of this journey is through APIs to be able to expose the data, from the systems of record to systems of engagement to all the new business applications that can be built on multiple channels. This all will be facilitated through the APIs, and through this process, organizations will also be shifting their workloads to the clouds. So, so in this digital transformation journey, two steps are happening with the organizations. One is renovation, and another is innovation. The renovation is on the backend systems, because still the backend systems are very important, because the entire crucial data for the organization is stored in the backend systems, that is systems of record. Those systems of record will continue to be renovated, by upgrading the products into the newer environments or putting the right fixed patches and all that stuff. But on the innovation side is where all the new applications will be built, and those would be available. Those would be made available to all the new channels that are being adopted recently, the social, mobile, and the cloud platforms. So this leads us to the notion of two-speed IT, or what we call multi-node IT, wherein which systems of record or systems of engagement apps, the system of engagement apps where the data to be exposed that is provided by systems of record, they will be built fast, and they will be rapidly developed and made available through, through all your new forms of adoption, be it mobile applications or through your social channel, that would enable the organization to get engaged with more consumers and newer consumers, and that in turn would promote, newer and newer business and revenue. So in order, as we touch base, this all is APIs are the key enabler in this entire journey, and for us to have, in order to adopt APIs, we need to have an effective API management solution, wherein which the speed of application development, the rapid application development is facilitated, and that would also secure whatever we are exposing to the internal or the external customers, and that would also enable us to reach out to much more larger congregation of customers or developers, that is, be able to publish what we have in a secure fashion. And not only that, this effective API management solution should also facilitate, be able to do the monetization of these APIs, like to be able to track and analyze and have the analytics of how the APIs are being used and which APIs are in demand, and how do we productize these APIs. So an effective API management should facilitate all these four key areas for any organization. So before I start getting into the details of API Connect, I would like to bring up the point that API Connect is offered in three flavors: API Connect Essentials, Professional, and Enterprise. The key differences are, the Essential package is a no-charge forum-supported offering. At this base level, you would get the Node.js-based micro gateway, analytics, and support for Node.js and the Java compute instances. The Professional package is for organizations where the departments with a standalone API project. The product level includes IBM support and a little bit higher API call entitlement. Whereas the enterprise package is designed for multiple departments across an organization. In addition to the features in the professional offering, you would receive a higher API call entitlement, support for both micro and data power gateway, and advanced analytics features. So let's get into what is API Connect. So API Connect is a simplified and comprehensive API solution that focuses on all stages of an API lifecycle, from API creation, runtime administration, security to lifecycle management. Also, this API Connect offers model-driven development, multiple runtime support, Java, Node.js, and extensive management capabilities, high availability clustering, and it provides analytics to measure and monetize consumption of APIs. The reason I said API Connect supports model-driven development is the presence of loopback, an open source Node.js API framework. Basically, this loopback is a framework for REST APIs. You will be able to develop APIs faster by focusing on the business logic and data, rather worrying about all the details of how to publish or expose the things. It's simple, like you just define the model, and the loopback framework automatically creates for you a predefined REST API with a full set of create, retrieve, update, and delete operations. The loopback framework creates an API path for each model you define, and by default, these operations get mapped to the actions on the model objects. So with that introduction, where does this API Connect fit in for you in our whole journey of what we are talking, the enterprise digital transformation? And so this API Connect, if you see here, this is the one, it facilitates your organization's systems of records to be exposed to your systems of engagement through APIs with with the full lifecycle management capability, including measuring the success of these APIs through analytics. So what are the components of API? What are the features? The features of API Connect. So the main 4 features of the API Connect is be able to create, run, secure, and manage the APIs. At the create level, it facilitates rapid model-driven API creation. One point I want to highlight here is IBM API Connect supports Swagger 2 standard for defining the APIs, and you have multiple types of runtime environments, Node.js, Java, etc. And also it facilitates you to manage the management. You can productize these APIs, and you have the analytics, advanced analytics available for you to monitor and measure the consumption and monetize the APIs, and the security feature where you can enforce or do the policy enforcement and secure APIs. So what are the important components of API Connect? These are the important components of API Connect. You have API Manager, Developer Portal, Gateway, Runtime Manager, and the Developer Toolkit is a set of applications and utilities for you to create and test the APIs. The Developer Portal is a website where third-party application developers register and consume your published APIs. The API Management Server, this is the one that catalogs and manages the published APIs. Your API Gateway enforces the runtime policies to secure and control your API traffic. The Collective Controller manages the runtime environment for Node.js and Java API implementations, and this is the Node.js or Java runtime. So what are the types of installs that are supported by API Connect? You can have API Connect on premises, or you can have it on Bluemix platform, or you can have it as a dedicated cloud service. On the premises, you can deploy the Developer Portal, Management Server, and Cloud Manager as virtual machines. You can install and configure a virtual or physical data power appliance as the API Gateway. Alternatively, you can just install Node.js based micro gateway as the gateway. You have, on the Bluemix, you have the same publish, enforce and secure API features as on-premises offering. The only difference would be that the Bluemix service and the on-premises version is, is infrastructure administration and the direct gateway configuration access. You typically work with your service provider, to configure and manage these parts. The dedicated cloud service is an IBM API Connect platform on soft layer hardware that is dedicated for you. You have the option to integrate your corporate LDAP server for authentication. In contrast to the Bluemix offering, you have the access to the gateway configuration. You can develop and deploy custom policies on your APIs. If we look at the topology of API Connect, the API developer would create using the Developer Toolkit his APIs, and he would develop the he would deploy the implementation to the to the runtime, and this runtime is managed by a collective controller, and the management server is the one that configures the gateway, and it is the one that would publish and catalog the APIs and to be made available to the others. So the developer portal is a place where the app developers would go and subscribe and subscribe for the APIs. Depending on the security and message processing policies, the API request is it is forwarded to the compute runtime, and the client apps typically receives the result of the API calls to the APIs. If you look at the role of the different components, all the components in the API Connect, all these fulfill one or more of the roles in the API Connect. You see here that some of the components fulfill the create and run role feature, and the others, Developer Portal API Management Server, would fulfill the management role of the APIs, and security for these APIs is enforced through your API gateway, and obviously the Developer Toolkit is a place where one would develop the APIs. If you look at the digital ecosystem, if you see there are a wide range of consumer applications like mobile web applications, business partner applications, enterprise applications, and all the IoT and stuff. Each of them would have the different requirements and different formats. Each would require the data be available in the different formats. But on the other side, you have your core enterprise systems. The traditional proven robust IT architecture. These systems typically focus on maintaining your strong standards, data messaging, and application platforms. So in between, the API Connect is the one to expose or build a set of APIs and expose the data that is available here in your core enterprise to these consumers. And this is what the API Connect does, supporting this. So if you look at the API Developer Kit has API Designer web application, API Explorer application, and API command utility. API Explorer is the view in the Designer web application that also facilitates you to test the client, test the REST APIs, and the API command utility, that kind of defines and generates, your API interface definitions and API implementation. The APIs can be categorized to two types: system APIs and interaction APIs. So system APIs is where, they're kind of passed through from a system of record unchanged. Whereas interaction API, in turn, might be invoking other system APIs, and that would manipulate, modify the return data from the systems of record. This diagram would illustrate, how typical interaction occurs in the APIs, the system APIs and the existing APIs. When an API consumer calls, say for example, the accounts API, the API gateway forwards a request to an existing API, and that would go to the backend and fetch the data. Whereas here is an interaction API, the API call is again in turn it in turn calls other interaction, other APIs, and kind of manipulates the data and gives back to the client. If you look at different policies that can be applied on these APIs, depending on whether it is micro gateway or data power gateway, different types of policies are offered. So you have obviously have many more policies that are available through the data power gateway. So how to secure, what are the different types of security features that are available through API Connect is, these are the three types: the API key, where in which a client is uniquely identified. The consumer needs to go and register in the developer portal, and they would get the API key, and that they would use to interact with the APIs. And you have the basic HTTP authentication mechanism, where in which the client writes the HTTP basic authentication information in the HTTP request message header, and you have the OAuth 2. OAuth defines a way for a client to access server resources on behalf of another party, and it provides a way for a user to authorize a third application to their server resources without sharing the credentials to the third party app. So analytic data is used by the stakeholders to gain visibility into, real-time visibility into API program performance, monitoring the API availability, perform the trend analysis by tracking the metrics, and also see if the infrastructure needs to be scaled based on the resource utilization, requirement. So these analytics are collected from the gateway and management servers and are stored within the management servers associated with the management service. These received analytics are transformed from the received format prior to the storage, and this analytics data is stored for a good period of 90 days within API Connect. So what are the best? What should be the strategy, and what are the best practices? So before venturing out, these would be the basic questions that needs to be asked. Like who will be the sponsoring the APIs, and who are your customers? Are the internal customers or the external customers? What are the assets that we are trying to make them available through APIs? How secure they are, and how to productize? How do we monetize? And what should be the pricing model to be used for these APIs? So these would be the basic questions, or the questions that are discussed prior to venturing out to make the APIs available. With our API strategy, the APIs can be made available at multiple layered levels. Like you can have the APIs available at the security caching layer. You can also have the APIs made available through your SOA, ESB layer as well directly. And so we follow the multi-layer API approach. You have system or infrastructure APIs, process APIs, or even the third-party APIs. Our strategy is to recommend various type of patterns. We can have digital APIs that are solely dedicated for your application developers or different LOBs. So basically, these are the APIs that would be directed towards your mobile applications or applications that are other devices like tablets. And it also depends how the development time that would be required is depending on where it falls. If it is digital business APIs, something like these can be made prototype and made in 4 to 6 weeks. Whereas process APIs would take much more time, 3 to 6 months, and system APIs for 12 months or longer. So how do we intend to do that? So we follow a 5-step process. We come in, we define the requirements, we analyze the platform and do the analysis, and we build up, we do assess the skills, organization strategy, and definitely the governance procedures. And then we make our evaluation and formulate our recommendations and put a roadmap for the implementation strategy of APIs. So what are the what are the best practices we have seen. So early in the game, it's better to start talking about, who are the partner app developers and establish and agree on, how do we plan to have API versioning and communication procedures. And, for public cases, we better understand the use cases, and also since it is exposing the crucial data to the outside world, can be focused on, how the considerations from security, at the beginning of the game itself. And also to have the wherever the data storage, to have the data sources and the data storages be secured ensure that they are in the right secure zone, and they are protected by your, your gateway or your firewall or your appliances. And API and not and one of the critical thing is many of the organizations are moving to adopting DevOps. So the API success definitely relies on, rapidly developing and deploying the APIs. So adopting DevOps would be one of the crucial things to have your,
Sorry guys, you have been an awesome audience. Balaji, somehow he got cut off with the webinar. He will be joining us right back. It should not take more time. Maybe next couple of seconds he should be back.
Sorry, because I'm back. So just got dropped off.
Thank you, Balaji. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So, and also it's always advisable to have your monitoring integrated with your enterprise level system level monitoring of your APIs. With that, I would conclude this webinar, Vikas.
All right, Balaji, that was a very good informative webinar for today. Since we are running short on the time, questions coming in from the audience. So as suggested, I'll sit with Balaji on the questions what you have been asking in, and I'll consolidate all the questions and the presentation along with the video recording of today's session, and I'll be sending a handout right maybe in next couple of hours. And once again, thank you very much for joining us today. But however, before going ahead, let me just tell you, we are at the IBM Interconnect 2017 this year, and we are at the booth number 438. So I appreciate if you can just drop in, and if you have some time, say hello, and we'll be happy to probably get a quick coffee or a lunch and see how we can take it forward from there. So thank you very much. You have been an awesome audience. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Vikas.